Hi guys, this is part 3 of my crochet owl video, and I'm going to show you how to crochet part of the body and how to sew on the face. So I went and got the yarn for my body. It's kind of like a very light cream, but the reflection of the sun makes it look almost white right now. So I'm going to go get the tail of that yarn, and I'm going to swap from this color to that color, and I'm going to show you how I do that. You can remove your marker for now, put your hook back in, and then you're going to start as if you're doing a single crochet in the next stitch. You put your hook through, yarn over, pull through, and now this is where it changes, because normally you would yarn over, right? But instead of yarning over this yarn, you've got your 2 loops here. What you're going to do is you're going to take this, don't forget to leave a little tail, 4 to 5 inches is good. And then you're going to hook that yarn and pull that through those 2 loops. So it's as you see, it's kind of loose here. What you're going to do to tighten that is you're going to pull on the yarn. So you pull on this yarn and you hold it, and you see if it's tightened right here. This gets a little tricky. Don't pull on this tail. Put your tails to the back. This is your yarn. You're going to pull that as well a little bit. You see that, how that tightens up everything there? You almost can, if you want to hold your tails in the back, that is helpful. I'm holding my tails in the back with this finger and pulling on this. You want to go into your next stitch as if you're doing another single crochet. And then you're going to yarn over with the new yarn, pull through, and then now you've got 2 loops with your new yarn. You'll yarn over again with the new yarn and pull through those 2. And as you see, it's still a little loose here. To get that tight, you just pull the tails. And I actually had to pull this regular one too, just to get it kind of tighter there. And so you've got your first stitch or your first single crochet in your new color. You're going to continue with the next, and you're doing one single crochet all the way around again in this new color. So you just keep going. So I'm going to make my way all the way around, one single crochet in each stitch, and I should end up with still 30. I should still have 30. So I will skip to the end, and you can tell when you get to the end on this one because it's obvious. So I've gone all the way around almost, one single crochet in each. I've got 2 single crochets left here. So I'll finish my last 2 single crochets. And I've reached the end here. And I've got a lot going on right now, so what I want to do is I want to clean up some of this. I want to get rid of the yarn that's connected to the head yarn. I want to get rid of that. So I'm just going to get my scissors and snip it. Before I do that, I just want to pull all of these a little tight. Oops. So you want to pull the tail of this one. You can, and you pull the head yarn tight. And then you snip that one off. And you can leave a little tail here too, but really this is gonna really stay on the inside anyways. I like to try to, if I can, put my tails inside. That way they're out of the way. So I'm gonna move on to this next round. And we're gonna bring back our marker. So I'm going to crochet into this first stitch right here. Because right now, I don't know if you can tell, but I am in this dark one right before that. So I'm going to put my hook in here, and it might be a little hard because I've pulled it pretty tight to make sure it's not going to come loose. So I'll do 1 single crochet there. And now I'm going to put my marker back in because this is going to start blending in together again. So I'll go into the one I just made, get my marker, pull that through. So at this point, it's going to be pretty consistent for the middle part of the body. You're just going to do 1 single crochet in every single stitch all the way around, and you're just going to keep making rounds. And this time you're going to do 6 rounds of this. Now we've already done 1. So let's get our book and just mark it again. I've done 1. And we're going to do it 6 total times. So I'm just going to keep going around again, and I'm going to go 6 times around. And I will skip to the end of that and show you what that looks like once I'm done. We're going to stop right here, and we're going to be attaching the eyes to the head right now. So what you want to do is, I noticed I have where we changed the color of the yarn. It looks a little odd here. You can put the eyes right there, and it kind of covers that up. Or, I mean, you could put it in the back too. It's totally up to you. You could put that in the back and the eyes up here. I think I'm going to put the eyes right over. So what you want to do is you want to take your eyes and just make sure this is the tail from where your slip knot started. And you want to pull that real tight. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make a knot. And the way you do that is you create this loop. You put the tail of that loop right through this hole. And what you need to do is you got to hold it with your finger. So hold it with your finger there and slowly pull this tail. You want to make sure that this knot is under your finger. Until it creates a knot. And that way it'll create a knot right there. So now what you can do is you can trim just the tail from the slip knot. Make sure you don't cut this off. You want to use that to sew. So just cut the one from the slip knot. And I'll cut this one too. And so your eyes should still have this one long tail coming from the side here. And now I want you to see that there is a difference between the front and the back. Like there's a pretty side and an ugly side of the crochet. This is the pretty side, and this is the not pretty side, kind of where we made that knot. So you want to put the pretty side facing forward when you sew this in. So what you'll do is you'll take this long tail and you'll use it and thread your needle, twisting this the way of the yarn. If you can see, the yarn is raveling this way. You want to go with the yarn. You don't want to go against it, because that'll open up and unravel the yarn. Kind of just push that through with your fingers. And look, that split my yarn. Doesn't always work. Sometimes it's good to have the plastic needles like this with the really big ones that actually gives a little bit. So I'm just going to cut this off and trim this. I'm going to try this one more time. Just going to twist it with my fingers. See if I can show you this. Try to push that through. Grab it. There, we got it this time. And now we're going to sew this on. And so I placed this first. I decided I'm going to have the tails, and I'm just going to have it like this. So I'm going to start sewing back and forth. Going to put my needle all the way through, all the way into here, and pull it. Pull this a little longer. Then I'm going to come right back through. Find a good spot where I started. And you're basically going to sew all the way around. Just taking your needle in and out. It's going to be kind of hard, but because you've got all these tails, You want to try not to get these tails if you can avoid it somehow. So I've kind of gone around once and it looks pretty good. I've got a long tail, so I'm gonna go around one more time and I'll show you what it looks like at the end of that. I went around twice. The second time I went around, I went almost along this edge here. And that kind of pins down the edges so it doesn't stick up as much. And so I've ended on the inside here. And I'm just gonna flip this inside out so you can see. We're going to just close this up so it doesn't move anymore. And the way you do that is kind of similar to how I showed you with the eye. You just go through one of these real close to where you where the yarn's coming out. Put your needle through, and before you close up that loop, put your needle right back into that loop and now just pull. Like that. And what I like to do is I like to just put my needle through the top layer. So maybe just going a little bit this way. And I want to make sure I'm going through where the yellow is still showing. I'm not going through this body yarn. I'm going right through this area. I'm barely just skimming the top of this. I'm going to pull that through. And then I'm going to now go back the other way, but I'm going to go in a different area. So kind of close. I'm going to skim the top of that again. I'm not going right back in the same place because that'll undo what I just did. I'm going back the other way, pulling through, and that kind of just keeps your yarn in place. And now you can trim that tail. And while we're doing this, since we have this inside out, we might as well just, I'm going to tie this knot here. Just holding it, slowly pulling it, and make sure that knot's at the end there. Trim that. But now I'm going to take my other eye and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to sew it on, and you really want to keep moving and placing it as you sew it on, because when you sew it on, you don't want to, you know, accidentally get it too high or too low or too open. So I've gone around once and I feel like the placement is good, so I'm just going to sew all along the edge now. So once you have those in, you want to put your eyeballs in. Now, if you have these plastic eyes, these are great. You can get these from the craft store and they're pretty cheap. And they usually come with a washer that goes in the back to keep it in place. These are really cute and you can just put them right in. They're super easy and just snap on. But if you don't have those, you can also just use yarn. And what's nice is if you do end up using yarn, you can use whatever color you want for the eyeballs. I'm just going to do a normal black. So I'm just going to take some black yarn and I'm going to sew that on with my needle. So I'm just going to show you how I'm going to do that here. I'm going to get thread my needle with this black yarn. And it looks like I kind of undid this part right here, but I'm going to try not to use that as much. Sometimes you can kind of pull it out and rewrap it like that. That seems okay. So what you'll do is, what I want to do is first start with like a little cross, almost like a little plus sign. So let's see, kind of have to figure out exactly where that's going to come out of. Right here. And at this point, we don't, got to make sure we don't pull all the way through. So what we can do is we can tie a knot here at the end. And I mean, you could even double knot it if you'd like. Make sure it doesn't go through, but I don't think it will. So I've kind of just put a double knot right there. You can trim it. And make sure that's going through to the back. So it's gone in here. And I'm going to try to go across right now, going from this left side to the right side. And it gets a little hard to get your needle in at this point because you're going through a couple layers of yarn. So that's starting to create an eye there. I'm going to try to, I want to go a little more to the right, I think. But what I'm going to first do is I'm going to do one this way, going up and down. See, so that's kind of created almost like, it's supposed to be a plus sign, but it's hard to see the top and the right side of that. But I'm just going to go a little, I'm going to fill this up. So I'm going to go into that part. Because I want to basically kind of make this look like a circle. I'm going right. It's hard to figure out exactly how you're going to go right through. It's not, I need to go just a little bit to the right here. And I can't really do that unless I split my yarn, but look, I have gone right through, kind of split my yarn there. I'm just going to go back up here to cover that. And now that's starting to form an eye. I've got this little spot here that I want to cover up. So I'm going to try to get right to that spot. And you see, I've gotten right to that spot right there. And I'm just gonna go here because I want to cover it up. So I went kind of to the right of that. See if that works. Sometimes you just got to test this out and see how it comes out. And that's pretty good. There's a tiny little spot here left that's got the yellow, so I'm going to try to cover that. And I think we're good after that. So I've sewn my eyes in, and what I'm going to do next is I'm going to sew the beak in. So I've got my yarn for my beak. It's about 25 inches long, and I'm just going to sew a triangle along here. And so I'm going to start on the outer edges and I'm going to work my way in. So let's go ahead and tie the knot here. Just double knot it. And just pull that all the way through till it stops. Now we want to go right across and be kind of in the same location. So let's see how that looks. Now you can pull this before you pull it super tight. Let's just pull it loosely and see what that looks like. That actually looks pretty good, but if you had gone way too far or way too inside, what you can do is you can just pull this right back out and restart. So sometimes it's good to do this a little bit loosely first. So then I am going to go right into where I want the beak to end at the bottom. I want it right there. Looks good. That looks like right in the middle. Pull that and go back. Looks like it's caught my marker, but no big deal. Might have to just pull out my marker for now. And then I'm going to go right back into here. And it's starting to create that V shape. So now I want to go back into this bottom one. Like this. It looks like there. It had split the yarn just a little bit. I want to get right back into that spot. And go back into this side to create that triangle. And I'm going to just kind of keep doing this. I'm going to go in a little bit more. And here you are going to have to kind of just sew through your yarn because it's not going to be perfect sometimes. So I've kind of gone on the inside of the beak just down here. And I'm going to sew up here so it kind of goes across. I can't even get my needle in because it's so thick. Okay, so I actually end up just sewing back and forth, you know, through these holes and kind of on the inside too, and I've gone maybe like 7 or 8 more stitches, and I feel like this is good now. So yeah, I think this should be fine. I'm just going to create the knot on the inside. Just make it 2. And put that knot right there. Trim that off. And we've got our face on right into that corner there on the inside, and I'm going to go into this corner here. We're just creating a beak here. I've decided I'm going to add a little tuft of hair just to the top of this. So I'm taking the same color of the head yarn and I'm just going to sew right through the top. And then I'm going to go back and forth a few times like this. But what I'm going to do is I'm not going to pull this tight. I'm just going to pull it down to here. Keep my finger in that, like that. Keep it maybe an inch. Go in one more time. Keep my finger in it. And that's gonna give me just a couple, so I want to do one more, so I will cut this a little bit longer. Go on the other side. Clean up some of this. That's gonna, if you clean up your yarn, it's gonna help you thread it much easier. If you're struggling with this, you can always add a little water to the end of it. That helps it to stick together. Okay, so let's go through a couple more times. Don't pull all the way through, keep your finger there. Let's just use up the rest of this yarn. I think that's good. So I've created these loops. Now I'm going to take out my needle and I'm going to trim. Take my scissors and then just cut the top of each of these loops like this. Try not to pull on them while you're doing this. And now you've got all these long strands up here. What you want to do is take 2 of them and just tie them. Don't pull on them tight yet. Take another 2. Tie them. Don't pull too tight because you might be pulling out from the other side. So you want to just keep taking 2 and tie them until you've tied all of them. A knot. And now what you can do is you can just trim this so they're around the same length. Give this guy a haircut. I don't want these super long.